Hey, I am David for Big Bits, and in this video we're going to take a look at a minor new feature on TradingView that allows you to select multiple alerts at once and also to stop and start those alerts all at once as you selected them. And then we're also going to look at a little bit of technical analysis for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some other projects that we've kind of following along with on this particular channel. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have to work with here. And of course, this was added into the blog on TradingView, which you may have noticed that every once in a while you will get a notification badge up here saying you have another notification. And when you click it up, you'll go to the What's New section, and I think it has a badge notification here as well. I can't really recall off the top of my head. And you'll open that up and you'll see this What's New modal window, and it'll take you to all these different references from the blog. And we're here actually pretty early. We're only a few hours after it came out, 6 hours that is. I've already pulled this up. It's really simple, but basically there's just some keyboard shortcuts that we can use to select multiple alerts. A very simple, very minor quality of life change that they've made to the website. It's pretty simple. It's very similar to using your file system commands that you would when you're browsing files on Windows. Now, I don't really use Mac too often or use Linux very much. I can only really speak to Windows, but I know this is very similar, if not the same, among those. So we have the Control A shortcut, which allows you to select all of those. It is important to note that your mouse does have to be captured within this region first. So you have to click within that region of your alerts, and then you can hit Control A. All right, the next one is the Control command, and then you can also use Shift up or down to select multiples within a row. And then you can also hold Shift and click on all the alerts to add to the area selection. I'm going to show you how to do all of these. It's actually really simple. Of course, it's very straightforward. You just saw it. You can see I've already selected what I wanted to show you here. But let's go ahead and just select the first one. We're going to start with Control A to select all. I'm going to hit Control and A. There we go. It selected all the alerts. I can stop or start all of those as necessary. Click back on the first one. Say I want to get the top and the bottom alert. I can just hold down the Control key and click on the bottom alert. There we go. We have that one. Now, what's really going to be interesting, and you might not know how to do this on file systems unless you've worked with a bunch of files in the past. If you don't use computers a lot, this one isn't something that I expect people to know if they don't work on computers a lot. But you can hold down the Control key and select an item in the middle, and it will also select that. But there's one minor difference between your file system and TradingView here, at least from what I recall, is that I can let go of I can let go now of the Control key after I click this one. And when I hit Shift and I click on this one, it will also select the one in the middle. Go ahead and do that. There we go. Now we've selected all of the ones in the middle. So I selected this one first. I hit, excuse me. I held down the Control key, selected this one as well. With the Control key down, I also selected this one. I let go of the Control key, push Shift, and I was able to select this one. Again, this is really simple stuff. I just wanted to explain this to you if you wanted to do this. This is a nice little tip, quality of life type of thing that can save you a few seconds here and there. And really, if you're trying to be quick and you're wanting to get a lot of stuff done quickly, these kind of things do help. They do improve your efficiency on the computer, and they are very nice things to learn for yourself. So, of course, once you do that, you can always start or stop those. But I'm not going to talk about this any longer. Like I said, it's super simple. I don't want to waste your time any longer on something super simple when we've done a bunch of complicated stuff here on the channel. But I do wanted to get into some technical analysis. Let me pull up, get that out of the way. I want to pull up the Bitcoin and also the Ethereum chart side by side. There's a few things that I want to look at. I want to get off of 15 minutes first of all. I like to start on the daily chart when we're looking at these things. And I wanted to zoom in here on Bitcoin. I wanted to show you when we started to sell off pretty hard around February 22nd, 23rd. If you weren't following me on Twitter, you wouldn't have seen the information. I don't post a whole lot on YouTube or Twitter or all these things. But when I do talk about TA, I try to post when I think it's pretty important. I post about all kinds of crap on there. But when I post about TA, I like to think that it's pretty important TA that I would make a video about, but otherwise I'm probably too busy. So I did say that I think we were going to enter into an extended sell-off on the 23rd here, and that was during the middle of the day when the price was around the mid Bollinger Band or maybe even below it. And that's because, not just because the daily looked kind of worrisome, but zooming out, and let's go ahead here on this Bitcoin chart and take a look at the 5-day chart. A lot of people don't look at 5-day charts, but zoom in here. All right, so this was the week, or the 5-day period of the 23rd, and you can see on our stochastic advanced, we had a very big bearish divergence forming after being overbought, very overbought. That's exactly what those little labels stand for. If you haven't seen this indicator before, when you the VOB, that means very overbought, and you see the VOB QD, that stands for very overbought, quick diverge. And that just means that there is a divergence pretty quickly after being very overbought. Excuse me, I need some water or something. But this typically indicates that things are kind of overextended and seems pretty natural that there should be a correction. Now, I will say, I am not going to rely on my indicators when we're in this bullish cycle like this. The only thing I'm going to take from this is that, and as I posted, that I wouldn't be surprised if this is an extended dip. I'm not going to say this is the end of the bull market. I'm not going to say this is going to last for months on end. Nothing like that. I, like many others, expect this to kind of continue on, this bullish momentum to continue on throughout the year, and run all the way up until close to winter time, as we have done in previous cycles. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on here with 5-day chart, and it looks very similar with the weekly. The weekly just doesn't show up as nicely on here because of its linear scale, but let's pull it up anyway. Okay, we've zoomed in enough that it actually looks all right. You can see there may also be a very similar divergence forming on the weekly. Very important to note that we have not tested the mid Bollinger Band on the weekly chart for Bitcoin. I believe that was September or October of 2020. So let's see. Let's just include October, November, December, January, February. In 6 months since we've even tested the mid Bollinger Band on Bitcoin. That's a long time. During the last bull cycle in 2017, one of the key checkpoints for forming support and continuing that parabolic run up was testing the 21-week EMA, which, let's just say, that's going to be very, very similar to the 20-week moving average or the mid Bollinger Band. So it's essentially the same thing for the most part. The numbers are going to vary to perhaps significant degree, but usually not. When we're talking about huge numbers like this, just being within a significant area of that line is pretty important. And finding support here, pretty important. We haven't touched it. We haven't came close to it. In fact, if you look at this, we have traded on the upper Bollinger Band, that white upper line here. We have traded on that throughout some period of every week since that's probably the middle or end of October. This is a very long period of time to be trading on the upper bands, and it should come to no surprise to anyone if that should come to an end at any time soon in an effort to form some new areas of support. Now, if you look on the weekly chart here, we have not came back down and tested the weekly close. We have tested the high. You can see it's very close from the high wick here to the low wick here. So maybe we have tested our low and we're just going to kind of range. But from my experience, I kind of think we're going to come back down to those weekly highs, which would be around $38,000. Scare the crap out of a lot of people, but it's not going to be that crazy of a move. I think this is the measure tool, is it not? No, that was not. Where is the measure tool? Because I want to see there. Of course, its own thing. I always forget. Let's just kind of get a rough estimate on the percentage drop that would be from the top. Oh, and of course it's in my way. Okay. And of course I did it backwards. Give me a second. That might help change the scale just a little bit. To the top of that wick. Down to the high here. A 34% drop. That's very reasonable if you consider the moves that we had back in 2017. The average drop was 34%, around that region during 2017. Let's see what our other drop was earlier on Bitcoin. Go from this wick down to here. That was 30%. And actually, it looks like I could have been a little bit more precise. There's a little bit of wick hanging out the bottom end. So it could have been 31 to 32%. Let's take a measure and see where we are at currently, if that high and low currently holds. That's only around 26, 27% if we were going to only drop as far as we already have. So what I am kind of expecting is that this bearish divergence plays out for some time on these longer time frames, but I don't think we're going to have a quick crash, mainly because there is a lot of support on the daily below us. And of course, we're only wanting to come down to here anyway, and I do think we might, well, it might be a little bit below that. I don't recall where the weekly close is here. It could be anywhere within here. Let's see, it was 38,000. So yeah, it was around here. Let's just say it was here. So what I expect is we get this sort of descending wedge or this descending channel forming. Let me show you what I'm kind of thinking about here. I do not like that this thing is snapping to certain positions. And I'm not doing a very good job of drawing this. I don't know why it's snapping. I think it's doing like a grid line snap or something. I don't really care for it to do that. I don't know why it's doing that. There we go. Something a little bit more like this. Let me get the brush out here, and we are going to continue that. Actually, it's probably going to level off a little bit more, like something like that, more likely. But what you're going to want to see is price going up and down and through here. Then we test this moving average, come back up, break out, test back, and move upwards again. This could take some time. As you can see, this could take us all the way through the month of March, and we could have our first red month sometime. I'm going to go ahead and clear these drawings out. Let's take a look at the monthly chart here. See, things are very overbought. We get a red candle up here. It doesn't necessarily mean that things are going to stop, even though the indicator says very overbought. If you'll look back here, we were very overbought 4 or 5 months in a row at least. So it doesn't mean a whole lot if we have a red month and we're very overbought. It does mean that we have extended and came quite a ways in a short period of time. But if you've seen my other videos, you'll also know that with the RSI, it can stay overbought for a very long time. And we're looking at a monthly time frame here. The smooth RSI is only at 78. We don't have a whole lot of history here, and I'm not looking at the instrument that has a longer history, so I can't really go too much in depth on this as far as the past values. But you can see here, if you get an idea of a moving average on these particular values, the RSI probably came up to at least 86. And that's at least an 86 on the monthly chart during this time. And our RSI hasn't even peaked out as high as it did back then. And of course, it may not. There's never any guarantee that it will. But if you want to find a parabolic top, you're going to expect the RSI to be really, really high. Kind of expect these sort of twin peak types things. This would also indicate a twin peak on the weekly scale, but much further out. Let's come out of this zoom and take a look at the weekly around 2017. So I still have the drawing tool on. My bad. Okay, yeah, so you can kind of see this on the monthly. It very likely this was the first peak and this was the second towards the end of 2017. I would expect something very similar to that. Just kind of the RSI works. Let's go back to the monthly chart again. And the MACD is super bullish right now. I don't really see any reason on the longer time frames to get super worried just yet. But on the weekly, I can definitely see us coming down for about a month or so. And I'm very hopeful that it will be a slow grind down, and then maybe there will be some sort of fake out towards the bottom. Who knows where the actual bottom would be, but I'd expect we would get a wick somewhere, and you can see the forecast for the mid Bollinger Band on the weekly doesn't get us to 38,000 until around the 1st of April, which is the time frame I was giving you on the other ones. So hopefully that just goes to show you that my TA and my timelines kind of reinforce each other when we're zooming in and out, trying to get ideas and forecasting moving averages. Hopefully you can kind of get an idea of why we are forecasting out and zooming in and out of these different ones to get an idea of when we can hit key spots with prices in patterns that we kind of anticipate. Now, the descending wedge or the descending channel is typically a very bullish pattern. And considering we haven't tested that in a while, that's why I thought we might get into that sort of pattern. Of course, there is never any guarantee for something like that, but that's kind of what I am expecting based on my intuition and my previous, well, I guess just my history with watching crypto and doing my TA. That's what I expect. But let's get back into some more daily TA and look at some other things. Particularly, I want to look at Ethereum. This is a very similar deal. I'm not going to go into it. Most projects that we're going to be looking at are going to have very similar TA to Bitcoin. They always do. Sometimes they might be a little behind or they might be a little bit ahead, but for the most part, they trade very similarly. Now, with Ethereum, though, it has a kind of different setup. Go back to the weekly chart. Boy, I hate that. Let's go to the normal scale. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Though kind of ridiculous. All right. So that was a huge sell-off. But if you look at the weekly chart from Bitcoin and you compare it to Ethereum here, one thing really sticks out is that we never had a pullback on Ethereum. This is the pullback on Ethereum thus far. Look at our momentum and look at the RSI, MACD. The MACD is very similar, but you'll notice there was like a second wave on Bitcoin. Particularly, this is what I'm talking about. We haven't had a pullback like this on Ethereum on a weekly scale. That's why I'm still very bullish on Ethereum. But this is our first real pullback on Ethereum. There was a very big pullback on Ethereum, but that just continues to make me believe that with Ethereum, that it might head towards this Bollinger Band anyway. And again, it might slowly creep down like the other one, but the only really area of support I see on the weekly might be in through here. Maybe. Take a look at the daily. You might see a little bit more, or better yet, let's take a look at the 5-day because that's been a little bit more helpful. So yeah, just this area in general seems to be showing a little bit of support, and you can actually see that with that wick. We didn't even touch the mid Bollinger Band on the 5-day chart. So it still looks very bullish considering the very bearish price action recently with the huge wicks on the bottom. Again, I think Ethereum holds a little bit better going forward. Let's see how Ethereum is doing versus Bitcoin in the same time span. So yeah, this is pretty key for Ethereum trading versus Bitcoin. We had some pretty major crossovers here on this 5-day chart. Let's take a look at the weekly. 5-day doesn't really do too much for me. I usually use it more for horizontal support and resistance, but here we go. Here is the weekly. So most likely what we are going to be seeing is that this is going to continue. This is a very nice setup. Now we don't know where the 200-week moving average would be, but we can assume it's somewhere around the current price. Just kind of looking at things. There's not a whole lot of weeks back here where it traded above these prices, and we haven't set a value yet. See, the 100-week only goes back to here, but at the same time, most of those values are lower than where it is now. So it only looks like this trend will continue to move up. You can kind of draw a trend line with your mind here that things are going to continue to go up. And we may get some very sudden moves like we did back in the end of 2017. Let's take a look at this on a different exchange because I think that's going to make a difference in our history here. Yep, there we go. Here is our 200-week. Ooh, that's beautiful. Ethereum versus Bitcoin. This is a very beautiful chart. We have very clear resistance on the 200-week moving average versus Bitcoin. But what we do have is this positive movement upwards versus Bitcoin and key moving averages below the price. Now we are below the mid Bollinger Band here, but the flattening of the 100-week is very important because eventually you want the 100-week to start trending up again. And it's going to be hard to get it to trend up if it's still moving down, right? So the fact that we're moving flat is a pretty good sign. What isn't looking good is the downward movement on the moving average on the 200-week. What I would like to see is this moving average come down, flatten out. Then we have all of our key moving averages line up very bullishly, crossing up. And honestly, it doesn't look like that might not happen until around this time. Let's see where that is. I'm going to assume that this is the end of the year. How about that? November. It could take a while to get these moving averages lined up and see some truly very bullish movement on Ethereum versus Bitcoin. That doesn't mean that move won't happen until then. I'm just talking about the moving averages themselves probably won't catch up until at least this period of time. And we go back here, you'll notice that the moving averages are a very big lagging indicator as far as where the price currently is. So you can get some really big moves before the price actually catches, or the moving average catch up with the price. Even though I'm not looking for those crossovers until later in the year, that doesn't mean the price can't jump up significantly before then. And that's, of course, we're in a bullish cycle. That's what I expect. Let's take a look at Link versus the dollar. This is the week. I have no idea what was beeping. That kind of bothers me. Okay. Anyway, Link. It's amazing. Look at the weekly chart. It does look like there may be some bearish divergence on the weekly chart. But as long as the entire crypto sentiment remains bullish, as it probably is going to be, there's no telling where the price is going to go. And when you look at it at this scale, it doesn't look like it's out of reach for it to reach $80 or even $100 with that particular pace of the price action. Let's take a look at the daily. Very similar. It's done very well as have. Yeah, it looked like there might have been some small divergences there that played out. That's good. That's something you expect to see. Where are we looking at our former? Yep, it came back down to former resistance. Turned it to support there. Again, things could go sideways or down, but I think we look pretty good to continue forward going into the future. Let's take a look at Link versus Ethereum. It's one that we've kind of always had our eye on here. Again, this is similar to the Ethereum versus the dollar chart. When we look at its weekly chart, you can see the key moving average coming down, the 200-day in this case, but you have the smaller moving averages starting to flatten out, starting to want to reverse the trend. So that's something to keep an eye on here with Link. It might take it a while to outpace Ethereum again, but I'm not really sure we see these kind of values again with Link anytime soon. But you never know. It could be in the cards. Going to hold off on being super bullish on Link versus Ethereum until we get some movement more out into the future, at least through the middle of March, where we give the opportunity for the 100-day to flatten out and start to trend back. Now, one of my personal favorites, you can tell why when we look at the chart, is basic attention token. I've been very bullish on this project. Of course, we use the Brave browser here on the channel. I'm a certified publisher on multiple formats, and I really love the Brave browser in general, but also their model. I know a lot of people don't really care for the tokenomics, but when you have a product that works, once people realize that there's going to be hype behind it, I think basic attention token has a long way to go in the cycle itself. Considering we're really only at previous highs now. We haven't even hit the previous highs, which were $1.08. So if, like most crypto projects, we break our previous all-time high versus the dollar on a big-time hype project, I don't know where the top is, but I would like to see $3 to $5 per token. And that's going to be a ridiculously large market cap. It's not too ridiculous. Basic attention token has fallen in the rankings on market cap, and as good as a project it is, I have a lot of faith that it should be valued more. Let's take a look at basic attention token versus Bitcoin. I don't want to continue to look at these versus the dollar or zoom in and out. There's no need to do all of that. The alt market kind of tends to move together. And again, this is similar to Link versus Ethereum, but I think we're in a much better position versus Bitcoin here in the long run, as opposed to where we are with Link versus Ethereum on the daily. Because you see, when I talked about Link on the daily, I wanted to see that 100-day start to flatten out and those moving averages cross above it. So we're seeing what I want to see in Link versus Ethereum right now on basic attention token versus Bitcoin, and you can see it did find that resistance at the 200-day. Means we're going to delay things a little bit. We're going to want this to flatten out. We're going to want to reverse that trend versus Bitcoin. It's been going down for some time. We peaked out back in August, all the way back in August of 2020. I think there's going to be good things to come here for basic attention token once we get those moving averages aligned. It's looking really, really good for most projects for the year. Again, it's amazing how these cycles have repeated themselves so very similarly. The time frames have been very, very similar. I kind of expect it to end sooner this time, but the longer time frames that I'm looking at, the weekly charts and things like that, everything kind of tends to point towards November, beginning of December again. So I don't know. It's like I want to outsmart the market, but the TA right now is telling me to be super patient, and I'm going to do that. So we'll see how things go. Let's take a look at another one that we do here, Uni versus the dollar. And this one's crazy. This is super bullish right now. Wow. Bouncing up off of the mid-Bollinger Band with forecast continue to move up. It could continue to ride those bands upward. Uni is ridiculous. I can't imagine it continues to outpace the market as quickly as it has. And further that point. Let's take a look at it versus Bitcoin. This is Uni versus Bitcoin. Look, it's tapping its all-time highs versus Bitcoin. It looks poised to break its all-time highs here, which are only a little bit more above this as far as the close goes on the daily. But this is super bullish. That's amazing. You'll have to want to keep an eye on Uni. Very, very, very much you'll want to keep an eye on you in the coming days. All right, what's another one? Matic. This one has been doing amazing. Another one we were on last year. And if you want to know why I was on Matic, because I was trying to look ahead into this year and think what's going to happen. Well, the big play everybody thought was going to be DeFi, and it still kind of is. But right now, it looks like it's turning into NFTs, which is a whole nother topic. But it looked like DeFi was going to become the play. But if you're a veteran around cryptocurrency, you would know that in 2017, if you tried to do anything decentralized on Ethereum, the fees were ridiculous. So if you wanted to play CryptoKitties during the middle of December of 2017, you were having to pay tens of dollars just to breed your CryptoKitty. You know, just to list them for sale, just to do anything with your CryptoKitties cost you at least $8-10. And you know, the concept was very new at the time. People didn't really understand, and it was like, why are these things so expensive? I don't know, I'm making a lot of money. But anyway, it quickly settled in people's minds that they were paying too much in fees. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. Why do I have to pay $8? And there was a lot of confusion at the time. Like, who receives that $8? People who didn't know better thought that, you know, Dapper or whoever created CryptoKitties got that money, but it was actually the network. Anyway, point is that the network fees were bad, and with another cycle coming and DeFi becoming super popular and people were wanting to trade on things like Uni and other protocols that sit on top of Ethereum for this decentralized finance, it was pretty obvious that the fees were going to skyrocket again. In fact, they already did earlier in the year and towards the end of 2020. That's why sometime back in the middle of 2020, I started buying a Matic. There were several layer 2 solutions. I settled on Matic because they use the plasma technology, and it's worked out pretty well. Daily chart here, though, looks like a little bit of a pullback. It looks like it's in the middle of one. Zoom in a little bit, but it's hard to say. This could be very similar to Uni, where it just kind of continues to ride upwards for some time. Take a look at it versus Bitcoin, though. This one should be a very interesting chart because that was a very big move on Matic. Okay, this is the ideal setup for the alts ratio. And it just so happened we went kind of in order from one that was below the 200 to one that was below, that was flattening out the 200 curve, touching it, to one that is now above it, and you have these key moving averages all aligned very nicely. That is a beautiful chart, and it signifies a very bullish trend for Matic, although you can tell here there was a very similar move back in December of 2019. That is a little worrisome because as soon as that 100-day crossed over, it really struggled versus Bitcoin. We are a long way off from Ethereum 2.0, years, from what I understand, so I'm not in a hurry to sell. I think Matic showed it had a pretty solid floor price over the last few years versus the dollar, and that I'm in it for a little while longer. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to get into. KNC, there we go. Kyber Network, another one we were in. Been doing fairly well. If you look at the daily chart, a bit of a dip. What pattern does that look like? Just by glancing at it, if you're a trader. That's right, that's a cup of handle. That's a very nice, very bullish chart for KNC on a very large time frame. But what I was interested in for KNC was its weekly chart, which has shown that it is going to be pretty bullish. got its moving averages lining up very well. It's very likely already above its 200-week moving average, considering it's in the top 80% of its entire trading history, and we haven't even had our first 200-week on this particular chart. It looks very good. Most things. I hate to repeat myself, but I do like showing you all the differences between the technical analysis on those. Now, KNC versus Bitcoin on the weekly, different story. It doesn't look like it's doing so well, but alts versus Bitcoin, it's a very, very fluid situation where once it moves very quickly. All right, this one's similar to Link versus Ethereum, where KNC is kind of getting to the point where it's going to start flattening out the 100-day moving average very soon. We're going to get rid of these prices back here over the next couple of weeks. And as long as we replace the prices back here with prices around in this area, it's going to flatten that out. It's going to probably catch up to that 200. If it's going to trade like the other charts have, it's going to move around here. It's going to come up, hit that 200 like the other ones have, come down, up, flatten out that 200, and then it's going to skyrocket. And again, that's only if it trades like the other ones have so far. And yeah, it versus Ethereum is very similar. Although you will notice it is coming off of a bullish divergence. And very good. That means it's likely finding a bottom there. And the reason I would not have played this bullish divergence is because look at our moving averages. You have really no reason to expect that it's going to be coming up here. This is when it hit the mid-Bollinger Band was still moving down. At least here, the mid-band had flattened out. You found your divergence here while the rest of the market was finding itself and becoming bullish, even versus Ethereum. So yeah, I think we can continue to see this, and it will move versus the 200 here as well. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this video. I went and I talked way longer than I thought I would have on the technical analysis. Hopefully you appreciated the video. If you did, please leave a like. I don't know why I spent this much time talking, but I did. So I would very much appreciate it if you did leave a like on the video if you watched this far. And if you did watch this far, hopefully you'll like my other videos. I do a lot of TA, a lot of TradingView stuff like we did at the very beginning of the video. So you might as well subscribe while you're down there liking the video so that you can come back and see other videos here in the future. But it's going to be it for now. Thank you all and have a great day.